Here we are live on social media. I hope it seems to lag on my side, but I hope everyone can catch up and see this wonderful interview that we will do in few minutes. And this afternoon or this evening, if you are in the UK, I received the wonderful Tim Turner. And this is such an amazing topic because we will talk about conservation of our tradition, as is an and I hope I'm pronouncing right, auctioneer. Someone who work into auction and just try to make art going and selling and everything. So it's such an interesting like person to have on the show. And as we are puppeteer and we often question ourselves about how to keep going and preserve our art after the show is finished. And it's kind of an interesting topic. So yeah, I just want to say some words before we go into the interview. The podcast is doing really well, and yes, we plan to do an event, a big live Zoom event with all the community, so we can gather all puppeteers and puppet fans and people who want to join us and just reward some of the action and that we have done, some of the puppeteers who just like have some wonderful stuff to share, and so to do a big party online all around the world with puppeteers. So you can follow us, we will let you know. And if you don't know our Patreon also, I invite you to watch that because it's something we want to put more energy in it also in the future, and it's a way to encourage puppeteers and also encourage puppeteers who want to share their knowledge online. So we do workshop, we can have some there, and we have many more surprise coming. So yeah, have a look on our Patreon. So that was my little commercial before the interview. So people, please drum roll for the wonderful Tim Turner.
Yeah. Hi, Caroline.
Hi,
I'm
Tim.
so excited. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be on this. You're really kind of you to ask me in. We've got this really thrilling selection of puppets, which I had no knowledge of before a few months ago when I went to a house in the middle of nowhere in the UK, in a field, and we found these puppets in the garage. They'd been put away for 50 years, hadn't been seen, and since they were stopped being used. And I started to unpack them, and I found a wealth of marvelous craftsmanship, beautiful carving, fantastic animation, characterization. The faces are beautifully carved. Many of them have functions. They can move their eyebrows. They can wink. They can lift their arms up. They can a sixpence from a singer-song of sixpence, the famous nursery rhyme, can do all sorts of things that you wouldn't imagine a puppet can do. The Pierrots will dance for you. The circus act is extraordinary. The trapeze artist will swing on the trapeze, and the poodle will jump through hoops.
That's amazing.
I can't do that for you, but that's what they did originally. And one of the
Yeah.
most famous acts was the three-piece orchestra. So we had a pianist and a violinist and a cellist, and they played very beautifully, and they made them work in a very realistic manner. And you will see a video probably on your site or certainly on the internet.
I put it on the comment just below, so you can see a video that is from the website of the auction, and we can put many link if you are curious to see those.
Oh wow, that's going to be great. And the music plays with it. And when they used to put the puppet shows on, they used to have an old-fashioned gramophone in the back, and they used to put records on, and they've got many of the acts have got records to go with them. And they would tour these acts around the country in the evenings and go to local halls, get them all out and perform, put them away, take them home. A huge amount of work.
Yeah.
They had the most wonderful underwater scene. Can you imagine an underwater puppetry scene with mermaids and starfish and octopus and fish swimming by and Neptune? And this would have been incredible for people. The 1938, 1939, long time ago. Many
Yeah,
people had never seen moving images at all at that
that
time.
that's amazing. Like
Television was very new, very expensive.
you bring the curiosity. We have Honey who is really excited to maybe see them during the interview, and for sure, I want us to see this like exciting find. I think it's kind of
Yes.
like you seem so passionate, Tim, about puppetry. I want to know a little bit more about you. Could you introduce yourself as a professional to our audience who listen right now?
Yes. One of the things is very interesting, I think, is that I have no experience or knowledge of puppetry until a few months ago when I found these puppets, and it's really caught my imagination. So I've been an auctioneer for 40 years, auctioning fine art, pictures, jewelry, silver, carpets, furniture, all the contents of people's houses. And we get the most extraordinary collections of things. And this is one of the most extraordinary that we've ever dealt with. And it's quite extraordinary that I'm retiring at the end of this month after 40 years, and this will be my very last job. So I'm very
Wow.
excited about it. And I hope that people will be interested. We can see in the background many of the puppets hanging up.
Uh-huh.
Other puppets won't hang anymore because the strings have decayed. But on the whole, these puppets are in remarkably good condition. The clothing that was made by John Carr's wife is generally still in very good condition. And we can see from the king standing, hanging beside me, there are, behind me is an elephant, you'll see, and the William, the yokel. We can just see in there. And
Yeah.
he's got a marvelous act with strings of turnips with feet. So they animated inanimate objects like the shellfish and the turnips all have feet and all danced around. They have
Wow.
flocks of birds. They have swarms of bees that fly across the stage. It's absolutely extraordinary. Really, really amazing.
Totally.
And I'm
Wow.
just excited that people are interested in these types of things
Yeah.
because the tradition of puppetry goes back obviously many, many years, as you obviously will all know, but has died out to some extent after the war years. We got towards the on television animation, the Thunderbirds, all the puppets originally, and then animated characters, which we have now. And now it's all done by completely different graphics. So
Uh-huh.
I'm keen for the puppets to still be regarded, looked on as works of art, and if possible, to be used.
Uh-huh. That's so amazing. I want to, as an auctioneer, how you perceive the transmission of the puppetry tradition, like because often it's from a family to the son, and but often it's kind of like as you discover it, it's finished in a garage in a big box, and somehow people don't know what to do when the puppeteer is not there anymore to manipulate the puppet. So what is your perception of this transmission?
One is very difficult to generalize, but
Mm-hmm.
very often historical things that happened don't transmit through families because their lifestyle changes, the place where they live changes, their jobs change. Many years ago, sons and daughters carried on in the business of their parents. That's less common today.
Mm-hmm.
So the puppets were put away after in the 1950s and it weren't got out for until we collected them, basically. So I hope that there will be a revival. You can see them in several museums in the UK. I know museums in America as well. But it would be very nice to think that these weren't just inanimate objects and they could actually be made to work again, could be made to take out and act, even if it was filmed, maybe filmed for videos, filmed for online, the YouTube, the Facebook, lots and lots of these opportunities now to do this. And that's a great thing because one could do it in a very, very simple way. One could do it with a dancing sixpence
Uh-huh.
or a king,
Yeah.
William the Conqueror figure there, or the camel, or the trapeze artist. People could have fun with one single item, or they could do a circus performance or an underwater performance
Yeah.
and put it on. What we're doing, the podcast, the YouTube, the Facebook, gives
Yeah.
a whole new opportunity for these puppets to be shown. And I think it's
Totally.
very exciting.
And I wonder, I didn't plan to talk about money in this show, but it's funny how you are your auctioneer, like your job, it's also to put a value on puppetry. And I'm kind of curious about how to set up the value of this, like, wonderful, I feel your passion. I think you want to increase the value of it, but what is the tricks to bring value to our art?
The majority of items that I look at, I've seen something similar before. So you find out, you remember something that went before, a chest of drawers or a clock or a piece of silver or a ring or a piece of jewelry, and you do a comparison, a valuation based on a similar item that's been sold in the past. With these types of things, one can't do that. There's very little of this type of thing going through. So one has to guesstimate, to be absolutely frank. And one of the worst crimes an auctioneer can do is to overestimate the value of things, because it puts people off from bidding. So we say to you, the public, these are for sale. We've put what we regard as sensible estimates on them, but we were hoping that they will do better. And I think they are worth higher amounts than we've put on them, but we desperately don't want to discourage people. Now, some of these puppets will need quite a bit of work on them. The majority of them will need restringing. But the restringing is more complicated because John Carr made these puppets incredibly complex at the end. And one can see in the background over my head the top controls of these puppets. And many of us in the UK who had puppets when we were children had a basic cross. So just a cross, two pieces of wood going across. Very, very simple manipulation. Now, on many of these ones here, we've got very, very complex controls here, these sort of ones, and it enabled them to have up to 12 strings for each puppet. If you have 12 strings on an animated character, it means you can do an extraordinary variety of things. You can make them play the violin, you can make them dance, you can make them jump through hoops, you can do extraordinary things. We have a pair of boxers in a boxing ring who box each other. How extraordinary is that? And that's all done with the complications of these top controls.
Wow. And also it's kind of interesting because as we open up internationally right now with the internet and all of that, how is it like as an auctioneer to also send the thing after you sold it? Is it complicated you put it in FedEx, or how it works?
Oh, wow, that's a massive question. So even before the pandemic, a lot of the things we were selling were sold to people who never saw them before they bought them. We have to send them all over the world. After the pandemic now, the majority of our auctions, very few people come to the auction. And then we have couriers every single day. We have a series of companies that ship for us, similar to FedEx, DPD, and they ship all over the world. And we quote in our catalogue the shipping costs for every item we sell within the UK. And then we provide a quote for shipping them to Canada or China or Australia. It's a very, very important part of our business now. And it wasn't something that was there 20 years ago at all.
Wow.
But that has opened up a whole new market for us, and particularly with these types of puppets.
Yeah.
All over the world market.
And does he have like online auction, like Zoom auction? Is it existing? I just pop up.
When this auction comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to know when, but also like how it works. It's
this is
not
the auction
live anymore. Yeah.
This is when it's coming up, basically. So 17th and 18th of May. And what you can log on to our website and you can watch the sale, or you can register and bid. So you can watch the sale without participating, and it's great fun to do that. So many of your people who are involved, I think I would recommend them to watch the sale, even if they don't participate. It will be absolutely fascinating to see what these items make.
Yeah, because it's something, it will come again. Like, I think it's not the only puppet who maybe are in boxes waiting for being like into this kind of market. It's really fascinating.
You have no idea. We have no idea what's still out there. So there were many firms of puppeteers in the 1930s and 40s and 50s a whole list of names on the puppet websites, many of which you will know. Lancaster's probably the most famous ones in the UK. There'll be other ones all over the world. But very often those puppets disappear from sight altogether. And nobody had any idea that the Jacquard Puppets still existed. And all of a sudden, up pops the Jacquard Puppets from a completely anonymous source.
Wow.
Another set of puppets, they might have been lost, they might have been eaten by mice, they might have been rained on, they might have just not survived. Or we might have got these out and they would be all in terribly poor condition. But one can see from these sort of ones, many of these are in really surprisingly good condition. Bearing in mind they're 70 years old, a lot of these.
Yeah.
Absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah. And why did you accept this job? I'm kind of curious as an auctioneer, like when someone bring you the puppet and sell this for me.
No, it's much more exciting than that. I went to the house. I was called along to the house to look at some other things, not the puppets at all.
Okay.
Called along into the house to look at some furniture. The people were moving house. And then they said, come and have a look in the garage. And we see some furniture, some lamps. And then I said to them, what's here? What are these boxes? What's in these boxes? Oh, they're puppets. I said, what are the puppets? And then it all started. They hadn't called me in for the puppets at all. And then
Wow.
they said, wow, would you be interested in looking at them? And I said, yes. So a lot of people, after many years, the interest has lagged. And in their mind, these things have become old fashioned. And when somebody expresses enthusiasm, they're very excited because it revives their childhood memories. So the grandson of John Carr, he would have been very, very small, and he would have operated some of the puppets in the 1950s, just before they finished. So really exciting. Great for me. It's lovely for an auctioneer to have different types of things to sell over the years.
Yeah, and how it works, because you sell it, but you as an auctioneer, you keep a little fee of each sale, or how the family pay you to do it? Or
yes,
how?
we charge a commission to the family. So they pay us to do it. And then we charge a premium for the buyer as well. So the buyer has to make a bid in the auction, and then they pay a percentage on top of that as well, which is in the conditions. So the costs of running this auction room, the costs of all the staff, very, very expensive in today's life. So that's why the charge is quite high for selling these things. But it's been my job for the last 4 months, involved in these puppets and sorting them out for the family. I've been doing other work as well, but this has been my principal job. It's very, very difficult to make puppets work in auction because they get tangled up very easily, as you know.
Yeah. That's interesting, like to set up the thing also to make it attractive and appealing for buyer. And what is your, like, I know you talk about retiring, but as an auctioneer, like your purpose, what it is, your biggest one in your career, or maybe for the future that you will keep doing stuff?
No, it's a passion.
Oh,
the job is a way of life.
yeah.
You do the job for the items that you see, but also for the clients, the people that you meet. It's the most extraordinary social job. So you go to people's houses nearly every day, and they could be mansions, they could be huge castles, or they could be tiny little houses in the middle of nowhere. And you see everything in between. And it's absolutely fascinating because you see the way people live. And that changes a lot. The younger generation today are living a very different life to the older people.
Yeah.
It's a more smaller properties. They're more on the go all the time. They don't have separate dining rooms. They don't have lots of objects, lots of ornaments. It's a very different. The houses are much emptier today.
Yeah.
Same in Canada?
Yeah, that's funny how I'm in this kind of challenge right now to have a smaller, and the house of the mother with all of the like old stuff, and really like appealing, but it's kind of like how to fit it in the new kind of lifestyle.
Exactly.
As a collection, but has also a souvenir of something valuable. And I think that's
Exactly.
your day-to-day job.
Yeah. But then that's what makes the puppets more difficult in a way. So for the average person, a puppet isn't going to fit very well in their house
Yeah.
because one generally has to hang them. The other thing I've noticed in doing these puppets is they are much more animated when they're hanging. As soon as they strings have gone and they lie on the table or they sit in a chair, they lose their personality. They lose their characterization. It's really, really interesting. And they suddenly crumple up into a sort of heap. But when they're out and hanging, they're much, much more lifelike. Very interesting. So they need to hang,
Yeah.
not sit. So these ones are sitting here. But again, you can see.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, they seems less alive than the one
Exactly. Yeah, that's
on the
right.
string.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are kind of sad.
But many of the strings have gone on these ones, unfortunately, as you would expect. But generally, pretty good. This guy is amazing. He is absolutely extraordinary. The clothing, his cloaks, velvet cloak. He's got the most haughty expression on his face, a real king expression. He's got the most lovely boots here. You'll see these. And a copy, this is made of fabric, but it's a copy of a chainmail tunic. And here, what I'm going to show you this is his cloak clasp to hold the cloak across. This is a curtain ring, a Victorian brass curtain ring. Ingenious.
Wow.
So the reuse. So John Carr carved the puppets. His wife made the clothing, but they made a lot of it out of scraps and bits and pieces, bits of wood they found, bits of material they found, but they made the faces very, very characterful.
Wow.
This is particularly nice, this one here. You can see the articulation of the legs.
Yeah.
You can see,
wow.
you can see how this works here. But then look at the top. When you see this top bit, a little bit of leather, only just hanging on. Very, very sad.
Oh. Oh, that's so interesting.
That's a fabulous singer-songwriter elephant here. Circus elephant. Very nice. Stands up. He stands up on a drum like that.
Oh.
Articulated legs. And this guy, he's called William the Yokel. He's a fabulous guy. He's got a hoe and he hoes the turnips. And there's a scarecrow that goes with him. But again, lovely face. He's got an articulated mouth that moves. You pull the mouth. You might not be able to see this so well.
Yeah, but I see the mouth open. Yeah.
How clever is that? I think that's extraordinary. Absolutely amazing.
That's
I really like that.
Cool. And I want to hear your perception about the puppetry world, like as you see, like what you expect a collector to buy it, but what is your perception of the puppetry community?
The puppetry community, like a lot of the communities who collect things, is quite insular in many ways. For the rest of the world, you interact with each other. But for someone like me coming in from the outside, up until the last few months, I had no idea that a puppetry community existed, let alone someone as enthusiastic as all of you guys. So, and I've been contacted by other puppetry guild in the UK, and it's really lovely to see. And it's just a little insight for us into the kind of thing you do. And I can realize absolutely why you're so enthusiastic and passionate about these items, because they are wonderful bits of folk art. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Folk art is something that's very popular here, and I'm sure in Canada too.
Yeah.
So sometimes there will be an appeal outside the puppetry community for these, just as an object, an interesting object of design.
Yeah, so someone who have like nothing to do with puppetry could buy this for the living room and have it as a piece of art instead of a painting of someone famous.
Yes, that's exactly it. How interesting to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you maybe the puppetry community will not be pleased for that to happen. They will prefer the things to be used.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work like that. It just depends.
Yeah, so, depends of the lifestyle. Yeah. It's funny how we can see that the puppet have a life in itself. And
absolutely, yeah. And when one looks at that orchestra piece, the only original video of the puppets. You can see how clever they are, the articulation, even the wrists of the. If you look at that video and you look at the wrists of the pianist, and then you look at the bowing of the violinist, quite extraordinary.
Yeah, it's fitting the music.
There was a very famous conductor in England, in the UK at that time, called Sir Adrian Boult, and he watched the puppets perform one day, and he said that was the expression on the cellist's face was a real cellist's expression. Wow. Which I thought is an extraordinary little piece for a so-called inanimate wooden object. Quite amazing.
Yes.
Really interesting.
We will put that link into like just below the interview, so you can
that'd be really good. That'd be great
to see and observe. So to conclude, like you show us a lot of puppets, but do you have a favorite one, like something you want to share, or a little piece, or something you can express your passion? Oh yeah, this one. This is almost the end. And
that is unbelievable. And
yeah. Oh my God.
Can you see the winking eye, everybody?
Yeah. I can go like maybe bigger, like, no, we don't see it here. Yeah. Oh, so the eyes blink. Oh my God. Yeah, we see it right now. Wow.
Oh, this is so clever. This is fantastic. This is like a real frog. Look at the long feet. How clever is that? All these joints are carved with little pins going through the middle of them. Absolutely incredibly realistic.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. That's one of my favorite ones, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. Maybe you will fit with it. You will buy it for yourself.
Yeah. Beautiful glass eyes. There we are. And he's used marbles for the eyes.
Wow. This is incredible. Tim,
really
this is we opened the door of conservation of puppetry, I think, with your interview. I think it's really it's something as a feel of art. We have to think of this and what is the good way, the good fashion to preserve and make it going, and the value of it. I'm curious about, in your art, do you have a value for this frog? Do you feel like it's $1,000, $2,000, $5,000?
So what we're doing, we're selling them in their acts. So this act is an act with another a duck in it, and you'll see it in the actual catalogue. But all these are sold in their acts. So, for instance, the trio, we're estimating at £400 to £600 English pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these ones we're estimating £200 to £300 for an act. Sometimes there's one in an act. Sometimes there's 4 or 5 or 6. But again, it's guesstimating.
Yeah,
we're trying to put them in play. We're putting the items in play to see what people think of them.
Yeah.
And many people out there will say, oh, they're very cheap. Other people say they're too expensive. But somehow in the end, you have to come down to a value. And the auction, that is a way of finding the value of items.
So maybe it will start at this amount, or it could, like, depends on the first bet.
Sometimes when the auction comes along, the estimate is, say, £400 to £600. But before the auction, some people who are interested might have left amounts on automatic amounts that they will bid. So we may, if they leave big amounts, we have to start at the lowest of those amounts. And so sometimes you £400 to £600 and it starts at 800.
Wow.
Because people have pre-bidded already. And then you very soon learn how much interest there is in those types of things. But you never find out until the actual day of the auction.
Wow.
That's the actual result.
Wow,
so this is exciting. So if you guys can watch the auction, it's really good fun. Be really interesting.
We will put the date just below the interview and try
Yes,
to
super.
maybe like just share this information, because for the community it's something interesting to watch. Maybe someone will buy something, but maybe not. So
Maybe not,
just,
but it's fascinating to
yeah.
watch and just see what interest there is and how it comes up. And we'll know when the auction is taking place. The auctioneer will say the country where the people are bidding from.
Wow.
Maybe
Okay.
Canada, maybe China, maybe France, maybe South America. And it could have
Yeah.
been any of those places. But it's extraordinary how far
Wow.
away people will bid for these types of things. Very
Yes.
interesting.
So interesting. Tim, thank you so much for your
Been a
time,
pleasure.
for
I've
this
loved it.
passion. It was so clever from you to share this
Thank you. I've
expertise
loved it.
that you
That's
have.
really kind of you to ask us to do this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I remove you off the screen, but stay in
Yes.
the virtual studio a minute. We will chat after the
Sure. Yeah.
interview. Okay. So
Okay.
let's
Bye bye.
go. Bye bye. Yay, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. That's kind of really interesting to discuss about the conservation of our art. So yeah, if you have an opinion, feel free to just write into the comment below and write to us, and we can like just keep going with this like reflection and how we want to make our art going around with guilds and unima and all of that part of our yeah, culture. So I have to go. I have a baby crying, but as you know, maybe I have a newborn. But I'm happy to share this passion of puppetry again, and we have many interview coming also. So stay tuned, and if you have the chance to look our Patreon also, we have a mini workshop coming, some exciting news surprise coming it. So have a look on this, and I will say bye bye and see you soon for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. Bye bye.